The sun cast a golden hue across the garden as disciples gathered beneath the Bodhi tree. Buddha's serene presence calmed restless hearts. The air was still, carrying the weight of unspoken questions seeking clarity and understanding. Buddha opened his eyes slowly, gazing at his disciples with infinite compassion. Today, he began, we will speak of the mind's entanglement with its illusions. A disciple stepped forward hesitantly, bowing deeply before speaking with trembling words. Master, he said, my mind is often tormented by fear and doubt. How can I find peace within myself? Buddha listened intently, his face a reflection of patience and understanding. Fear and doubt are like shadows cast by a flame, Buddha said gently. They exist because the light is not steady. He gestured to the Bodhi tree above him, its leaves swaying in the soft breeze. Look at this tree, Buddha said. Its roots dig deep into the earth. Anchoring it against the storms, the disciples followed his gaze, seeing the wisdom in the simplicity of nature's design. The mind, like this tree, needs roots, Buddha continued. Without roots, it is tossed by every wind that blows. Another disciple spoke, her voice carrying a note of desperation. Master, how do we plant these roots within our minds? Buddha smiled, his expression serene and kind. The roots are mindfulness, compassion, and understanding, he said. They anchor the mind firmly in the present moment. He reached down, picking up a handful of soil and letting it crumble between his fingers. Mindfulness is the soil, he explained. It nourishes the seeds of peace and clarity within the mind. The disciples watched intently, their curiosity sparking a fire of determination within their hearts. Compassion is the water, Buddha said. It softens the hardened soil and allows growth to flourish. A young disciple interrupted with a troubled look. But Master, my mind is filled with negative thoughts. How can I cultivate compassion? Buddha turned to him, his eyes filled with an infinite calm. Negative thoughts are like weeds, Buddha said. They arise when the soil is neglected. He stood and began to walk slowly, motioning for his disciples to follow him. They moved silently, their hearts tuned to his every word. When you meditate, Buddha said, you become the gardener of your mind. You tend to the soil and remove the weeds. They reached a small pond reflecting the sky's golden hues as the sun continued its descent. Buddha knelt by the water's edge, scooping a handful of water and letting it fall gently. The water reflects the sky when it is still, he said. When disturbed, it reflects chaos. The disciples knelt beside him, their eyes fixed on the tranquil surface of the pond. Your mind is the same, Buddha continued. In stillness, it reflects the truth. In turmoil, it mirrors confusion. A ripple spread across the water as a leaf landed upon its surface, captivating everyone's attention. Even a small disturbance creates ripples, Buddha said softly. But with patience, the water becomes still again. The young disciple nodded, his troubled expression softening into one of quiet understanding. Master, how do we calm the ripples of the mind? He asked. Buddha smiled, his voice soothing like the gentle wind. Through meditation and awareness, he said, observe the ripples without judgment, and they will subside. He stood again, his movements slow and deliberate, and the disciples followed his lead. As they walked back toward the Bodhi tree, another disciple spoke, Master, what if the roots of my mind are weak? Will they ever grow strong? Buddha paused beneath the tree, placing his hand gently on its bark. Even the mightiest trees began as fragile saplings, he said. Strength comes with time and care. He turned to face the group, his eyes gleaming with wisdom that seemed to encompass lifetimes. The journey to peace is not without effort, Buddha said, but every step you take strengthens your roots. The disciples felt the weight of his words, each one resonating deeply within their hearts. Do not fear your weaknesses, Buddha continued. They are opportunities to grow and strengthen the roots of your mind. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves of the Bodhi tree, as if nature itself affirmed his teachings. "Remember this," Buddha said. "The tree does not fear the storm when its roots are deep and strong." He gestured for the disciples to sit beneath the tree once more, their faces reflecting a newfound resolve. "Close your eyes," Buddha instructed, his voice a gentle guide. "Feel the weight of your body anchoring you to the earth." The disciples obeyed, their breaths slowing as they focused inward. "Imagine your mind as a garden," Buddha said. "See the weeds and the flowers growing side by side." His words painted vivid images in their minds, each disciple experiencing a personal journey through his guidance. "Pluck the weeds gently," he continued. "Do not hate them, for they teach you what needs nurturing." Buddha's voice grew softer, each word sinking into the depths of their awareness. "Water the flowers of kindness and understanding," he said. "They will bloom and fill your mind with beauty and peace." The disciples felt a wave of calm wash over them, their hearts opening to the possibility of transformation. After a long silence, Buddha spoke again. "When the garden of your mind is tended, it becomes a sanctuary," he said, "a place of refuge." The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the garden as shadows began to lengthen. "In this sanctuary, you will find the strength to face life's challenges," Buddha said. The disciples opened their eyes, their faces serene and peaceful as they gazed at their teacher. "Master," one disciple said, bowing deeply, "your words have given us hope and clarity. We are grateful." Buddha smiled, his expression radiant with compassion and joy. "Remember," he said, "the journey is yours to walk, but you are never truly alone." The disciples bowed as one, their hearts united in gratitude and determination. The teachings of the Buddha echoed within them, guiding their steps as they began their journey toward peace. Another day, the Buddha walked along the riverbank, his footsteps light yet purposeful on the soft, damp earth. Disciples followed in silence, their hearts full of unspoken questions and a longing for wisdom. The river's gentle flow mirrored their minds, seeking direction yet moving endlessly toward an unknown destination. Buddha stopped and picked up a lump of clay from the riverbank, examining its texture with a thoughtful expression. "This clay," he began, "is formless, yet it holds the potential to take any shape we choose." His disciples gathered closer, intrigued by his words and actions as he molded the clay slowly. When molded with care, the clay becomes a vessel that holds water, nourishing life, Buddha said, holding up the crude pot. "But the vessel is impermanent," he continued. "One day, it will crumble and return to the earth." The disciples exchanged glances, sensing a deeper lesson concealed within this humble demonstration. A disciple stepped forward and asked, "Master, does this impermanence mean we should not create anything at all?" Buddha smiled gently, his eyes filled with warmth. "Impermanence does not negate purpose," he said. "It reminds us to live with intention." He placed the clay pot carefully onto the ground and gestured toward the flowing river. "This river flows endlessly, reshaping the land it touches," Buddha said. "Yet, it never clings to the shape it creates." The disciples watched the water ripple against the stones, understanding the harmony in its constant motion. Buddha began walking again, leading them to a small hut where a potter was working at his wheel. The potter bowed deeply, inviting them to observe his craft. "Watch the potter's hands," Buddha instructed. "They move with patience and precision, shaping the clay into something of value." The disciples observed as the potter's hands skillfully guided the clay, transforming it into a symmetrical vessel. "The mind is like this clay," Buddha said. "It takes shape based on the actions we perform and the thoughts we cultivate." A young disciple hesitated before speaking. "Master, my thoughts often stray into negativity and fear. How can I reshape them into something beneficial?" Buddha turned to him, his gaze steady yet compassionate. First, recognize that your mind, like clay, is neither good nor bad, he said. It is what you make of it. He picked up a finished pot and held it up for all to see. This pot exists because the potter envisioned it, Buddha said. Your thoughts shape your reality in the same way. The disciples nodded, the analogy resonating deeply with their own struggles and aspirations. But Master, another disciple interjected. What if the clay is flawed or broken? Can it still be shaped into something useful? Buddha placed the pot down gently and walked to the river, where shards of a broken pot lay scattered. He picked up a piece and examined it closely. This shard once held water, he said. Now it cannot, but it still holds lessons for us. The disciples gathered around, listening intently as Buddha continued. The shard reminds us that flaws and imperfections are part of the cycle of existence. He placed the shard back on the ground and turned to face the group. Even in brokenness, there is value, Buddha said, for it teaches us humility and resilience. His words hung in the air like a gentle breeze, stirring the hearts of his disciples. Buddha returned to the potter's wheel and observed as the potter shaped another vessel, his hands steady and deliberate. The potter does not lament the clay's impermanence, Buddha said. He works with what is in the present moment. He looked at his disciples and added, in the same way, accept your imperfections and focus on the effort you can make now. The disciples felt a sense of relief, realizing that perfection was neither required nor possible in their journey. The potter finished shaping the vessel and placed it carefully into a kiln to be fired. Buddha watched the flames consume the kiln, their warmth radiating into the surrounding space. Fire strengthens the pot, Buddha said, but it also reveals its weaknesses. The disciples contemplated his words, understanding that challenges in life were like the fire that tested their inner strength. Do not fear the fire, Buddha said. It is through trials that you discover your true resilience and purpose. One of the older disciples stepped forward and spoke with a deep voice. Master, how do we endure the fire without being consumed by it? Buddha turned to him, his expression serene and thoughtful. Endurance comes from awareness, he said. Observe the fire without resistance, and you will emerge stronger. He gestured for the disciples to sit by the riverbank, where they could see the flow of water and the distant kiln's smoke. Water and fire coexist, Buddha said. They balance each other, teaching us both adaptability and strength. The disciples closed their eyes, reflecting on the interplay of elements and the lessons they carried within. Buddha's voice broke the silence gently, guiding their thoughts toward deeper understanding. Life is a dance between impermanence and purpose, he said. Embrace both, and you will find peace. The sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the river, and the disciples gathered by its banks. Buddha rose to his feet, his movements deliberate and filled with grace. Remember this day, he said. The clay, the potter, the fire, and the river are all teachers. The disciples bowed deeply, their hearts filled with gratitude for the wisdom imparted by their master. Buddha walked along the riverbank, his figure silhouetted against the fading light, embodying the harmony he spoke of. The teachings remained with the disciples, guiding their thoughts and actions as they continued their journey. Another day, the Buddha led his disciples across a narrow bridge spanning a vast valley cloaked in morning mist. The bridge swayed gently under their feet, a subtle reminder of the balance required to walk its length. This bridge, Buddha began, represents the connections that bind us to one another in unseen yet profound ways. The disciples listened closely as they walked, each step a metaphor for navigating life's uncertain paths. Just as this bridge unites two lands, empathy and compassion unite human hearts, Buddha said, his voice calm and resonant. A disciple hesitated and asked, Master, how do we build these connections when others hurt us? Buddha stopped at the center of the bridge, gazing out at the mist-covered valley below. When hurt arises, the heart builds walls to protect itself, Buddha said. But walls isolate, while bridges heal and connect. He gestured to the bridge beneath their feet. This bridge exists because someone chose to create it despite obstacles and challenges. Another disciple spoke, her voice tinged with sorrow. Master, I fear opening my heart only to be hurt again. How can I overcome this fear? Buddha turned to her, his gaze steady and compassionate. Fear is natural, he said. But if fear controls you, it denies the possibility of connection. He picked up a small stone from the bridge and held it out for all to see. A single stone may seem insignificant, Buddha said, but many stones together create a path. Just as small acts of kindness build trust, the disciples pondered his words, their hearts touched by the simple yet profound truth. Buddha resumed walking, his footsteps steady, and his disciples followed in silence. Reflecting on the lesson, compassion, Buddha continued, is the foundation of every bridge. It allows us to see beyond differences and recognize shared humanity. A disciple stepped forward and asked, Master, what if the other person does not reciprocate compassion? Buddha smiled gently, his eyes filled with infinite understanding. Compassion is not a transaction, he said. It is a gift given freely, expecting nothing in return. He paused and pointed to the ropes supporting the bridge. These ropes do not demand recognition for holding the bridge steady. They simply fulfill their purpose. The disciples nodded, their minds absorbing the wisdom like the valley mist absorbing the sunlight. They reached the end of the bridge, where a lone traveler stood gazing at the horizon. The traveler bowed deeply upon seeing Buddha and asked for guidance. Master, he said, I seek connection but often feel isolated. What must I do? Buddha gestured for the traveler to join the group and sat beneath a nearby tree, inviting all to gather. Isolation is like a dark cloud, Buddha said. It blinds you to the light of shared existence. He placed his hand on the traveler's shoulder and continued, to dispel the cloud, recognize that every individual is part of a greater whole. The disciples and the traveler listened intently as Buddha spoke, his words weaving a tapestry of understanding. Modern psychology speaks of mirror neurons, Buddha said. These are the bridges of the mind, allowing us to empathize and connect. He touched the ground beneath him and added, this earth supports us all, regardless of our differences. Let your mind mirror the earth's generosity. A disciple spoke hesitantly, Master, sometimes I struggle to feel empathy for those whose actions harm others. How can I overcome this struggle? Buddha looked at her, his gaze soft and encouraging. Empathy does not mean condoning harmful actions, he said. It means recognizing the suffering that drives them. He picked up a leaf that had fallen beside him and held it between his fingers. This leaf fell because of the wind, Buddha said. It does not resist its fate, but it is still part of the tree. The disciples contemplated the leaf's journey, finding meaning in its impermanence and interconnectedness. Buddha continued, just as the leaf remains part of the tree's cycle, each person remains part of humanity despite their actions. The traveler spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. Master, I wish to build bridges but fear rejection. What if my efforts are in vain? Buddha placed the leaf gently back onto the ground and turned to the traveler. Rejection is a lesson, not a failure, Buddha said. It teaches resilience and strengthens your commitment to compassion. He gestured toward the valley below and added, even the deepest valleys once resisted the rivers that shaped them. Yet they are now connected. The disciples felt a profound sense of understanding, their hearts opening to the possibilities of connection and shared existence. Buddha rose to his feet and began walking again, motioning for the group to follow him. Come, he said, let us continue our journey and build bridges within ourselves. They walked in silence, the rhythm of their steps mirroring the flow of their thoughts and emotions. The mind, Buddha said, is the first bridge we must build. Without self-compassion, we cannot extend compassion to others. A disciple asked, Master, how do we build self-compassion when guilt and shame weigh us down? Buddha stopped and turned to him. His expression kind yet resolute. Guilt and shame are clouds that obscure your inner light, he said. Recognize them, but do not let them define you. He pointed to the horizon, where the sun began to break through the mist. Even the sun struggles against the clouds, yet it shines regardless. The disciples felt a wave of hope wash over them, their hearts lifting as they embraced Buddha's wisdom. They reached another bridge, smaller and simpler than the first, yet equally significant in its purpose. This bridge may seem humble, Buddha said, but its purpose is no less meaningful than the grandest of structures. He paused and added, in life, every connection, no matter how small, contributes to the greater whole. A young disciple asked, Master, how do we find meaning in these small connections when the world feels overwhelming? Buddha turned to her and said, the world is vast, but it is composed of countless small moments. Each moment holds its own significance. He knelt by the bridge and placed his hand on one of its wooden planks. This plank may seem unremarkable alone, he said, yet without it, the bridge would not stand. The disciples knelt beside him, their minds opening to the beauty of simplicity and purpose. Buddha rose to his feet and gazed at his disciples, his eyes reflecting the wisdom of lifetimes. Remember this day, he said, every bridge you build, whether within yourself or with others, contributes to the harmony of existence. The disciples bowed deeply, their hearts united in gratitude and determination. The sun shone brightly now, casting golden light across the valley and illuminating the path before them. Buddha began walking again, his footsteps steady and purposeful, embodying the lessons he had shared. His disciples followed, their minds and hearts enriched by his teachings, ready to build bridges and embrace the journey ahead. But resilience feels exhausting, I admitted. Vulnerability spilling forth. How does one sustain it amid life's challenges? Buddha's gaze softened, his presence radiating compassion. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.